Hey everyone, hope you're having a great day so far. Welcome to episode 10. Episode 10 of the Indie Music Podcast by alexrainbirdMusic. It's Alex and Beth here as always, and thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Yeah, we're back again with another independent artist interview and live performance. Here's a sneak peek of what you can expect later in the episode.
It's nothing personal, just never wanna see you again. It's nothing personal.
We're also filming this for Patreon, so just go to patreon.com/alexrainbirdmusic to watch all of us on video and to get access to much more exclusive content too.
Today's episode has actually been highly requested by our community, so we're really excited about this and so happy that he's joining us today. You may recognise his songs Shoulder, Blow My Cover, Barcelona Babe, and many, many more from our playlists over the years. So please welcome the amazing Ed Patrick.
Good morning.
How you doing, Ed?
I'm good, yeah, I'm very good, Can't complain.
It means a lot that you're joining us today. We always start the podcast episode with a little introduction to our guests. So could you just tell everyone a little bit about who you are and like where you're from and all that?
Sure, yeah. So I'm Ed. I'm actually from Portsmouth, which I believe is down the road from where you are.
A stone's throw
Very
away.
close.
Yeah. We're in Southampton right now for everyone listening.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm from Portsmouth, and I got into music pretty early on mainly from my parents. They're avid music fans, and they actually they still gig more than I do, twice a week, playing in folk bands and stuff. But they that's how I kind of got into music. They're big fans of the Stones and Joni Mitchell, Jackson Browne, all that kind of stuff. And so I got into it through them, and then I started playing guitar. And my dream was to be like a rock guitar player in a rock band for a long time. And I learnt guitar, and it was just guitar. And then I found kind of songs and songwriting, I guess in when I was about 20 maybe. And then just started writing songs and putting them out under not my name, because my middle name is Patrick. So I did that, and I just kind of put them out on the internet to see, hoping that no one I knew would find them, and that and it kind of just went from there really. That's like a medium-sized version.
Yeah.
The first big playlist I got was yours when you featured. I think you featured a few, and then you featured "Eyes on You" as a standalone video.
Yeah.
And I remember like a week after that, I had like a Spotify playlist, and I was sure it was because of that. And then it's just kind of grown from there. So yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Very, much appreciated.
That's amazing. Yeah, you're so welcome, and if any part of playing that, then you deserve it, and we're so happy it's been so helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
We looked back through our videos, like you mentioned, and saw that you first featured in our May 2017 playlist with the track What You See. Okay. I think it was you who initially contacted us, so we were just wondering, can you remember how you found the channel, and what was life like for Ed Patrick back then?
I can answer the first one pretty easy. I think it was Submit Hub, like probably a lot of people, which is, if people don't know, it's it's a website where you can send your songs. It's kind of aggregated for blogs and playlists. So I think that's how I first contacted you. And 2017 May. Ooh, thinking about it, that was very, very early on. And I just moved to London maybe beginning of that year, thinking it would be easy. And thinking, it'd be easy. I'll just do what I was doing at the time, which was teaching guitar and playing and cover gigs and all that kind of stuff. And it wasn't. And I ended up having to kind of move back home with my tail. What's the saying? Tail between my legs.
Tail between your legs, yeah.
Yeah, at the end of that year. And it was just, not great. And then a year on, with playlists and all that, things like that, it meant I could kind of live off doing my own songs and move back to London. And then it started building from there. But May 2017 is a bit of a blur.
Oh.
I guess we were just a year or so too early, I guess, but that's awesome. But it got there in the end.
That's the thing. I think it's you kind of just have to stick with it, and if you can stick through it when it's not going great, then you got a good chance of seeing it through.
Yeah, definitely. It does just take time, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Finding the people, and trying to find people is easier and harder than it's ever been. There's just so many eyes out there and so many ways to do it. So it's great to find platforms, like yourself, who have audiences that that like music.
Yeah. Well, yeah. we say to people on this podcast, like, it's taken 10 years, like, to get here, isn't it? Which is wow. So. Yeah, we can definitely relate to it taking a long time. Pretty much. So we're just. It
kind of shows that you if you're doing it for 10 years, or you're doing it for say 4 or 5 years, and it's not, or less, then it's not going well. You're doing it because you love it, and
exactly,
it's easy to kind of, if you start thinking, oh, it's not really working, I shouldn't do it, then
probably don't love it.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know. Yeah. It's a tricky one because everyone has their own version. So yeah.
So when preparing the questions for this episode, we looked in your Spotify bio, and we didn't realise you left school at 16 and booked a one-way ticket to the US. That's amazing. That's incredible. Sounds like
what a dream.
Dream come true. Yeah. We both love the US and America, and we've visited a couple times. We always sort of consider moving over there.
It's always on our minds.
No idea
it's
how.
Always like, should we just pack a bag and go? Let's just go.
I have no idea how easy that would be. But so what made you do this, and was it tough to leave the UK behind?
Yeah, I think I was actually 18, so I skipped 2 years of my life in that. But
sounds more dramatic, isn't it? 16.
Yeah, I'll say it's 16 for effect, but it was. I went to college to learn guitar and all that stuff, and my teacher there he was like my hero. Like a lot of young musicians and probably other industries. Sometimes you find someone who is everything, and they can be your mentor, and he was, everything he said was gold to me. So I was talking about going to university, and he was kind of saying, for what I wanted to do, which at the time was, I wanted to be like a studio session player. I don't know if you know what that, when you play for various people.
For people,
yeah. And he was saying, don't go to university for that, just get out there. And if it was me, I would go to America, where all my favorite players were, and just see if you can get hold of them and see if you can spend time with them and if they'll teach you and that kind of stuff. So I did that, and I just emailed basically anyone that was on a Steely Dan album or a James Taylor or anything like that my favorite guitar players. I just hassled them, and at that time it probably wasn't as common for them to be hassled by 16-year-olds, 18-year-olds, asking for guitar lessons. And so pretty much all of them were like, yeah, you can come around and maybe show you stuff.
So cool.
Yeah, it was for like that, I think 5 or 6 months. And thinking about it, I don't really learn anything about the guitar or chords or any of that kind of stuff. But
it's the experience.
Yeah, massively. You're just getting there and realizing that you don't know anyone, and it's super lonely, and all these kind of things really kind of help build your character, and I look back on it as being the best thing ever, even though I know at the time it was far from it, even though there were many great bits, but yeah, so it was because of music, but I think it was there where I kind of started getting more into songs and songwriters as opposed to guitar players and that kind of thing. But I just did a little, New York for a couple of months, Los Angeles for a couple of months, and then the southern states, on the Greyhound bus, Nashville and Texas and all that kind of stuff. But I was underage, so it was a different experience to maybe if I did
exactly.
21.
Yeah.
If you were like 21, I bet it would have been very different.
You definitely remember any of it, would you?
Exactly, yeah, and it'd be a lot more expensive. But so I kind of, it was a different experience, I guess.
Which area was your favourite whilst you're over there?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, New York I absolutely hated New York. I hated it.
Really?
Just as much as probably equally as much as I hated London when I first moved. And they are now my 2 favourite cities. So,
yeah,
you change so much. But New York when you're 18 and, just living in a hostel for a month, it's not a very forgiving place, really, for a shy person, So I hate it, even though it's now, I love it. But my favourite at the time, I think Los Angeles, just because that's where all my favourite music came from or comes from. And you're just there and you know that, 2 miles up the hill is Jackson Browne, maybe, or someone like that. These people are there, and it was just, I just always loved that, just walking around. So I think Los Angeles was my favorite.
It's such a vibe.
We love
It is. I mean,
yeah.
You just step in there and you're like
palm trees, and it's always hot, and it's just like it's great.
And I can see why people don't like it. You know, it's so spread out, but there is, especially for music, it's pretty great. Yeah. You've been, have you?
Been there a couple of times now, but I feel like
Nashville.
Yeah, as you said, Nashville's now sort of like calling us. It feels like everyone's like in that area. Yeah.
People have been moving there for years, haven't they? Because it's it's. I think it's a lot different from the last time I went was about 5 years ago, and they say something back then there were 100 people moving there a day, and I'm sure it's even more now. It's probably a lot different, but obviously there's the country scene and some of the best musicians in the world live in Nashville, but also lots of bands and songwriters are moving there because it's a bit more affordable. But I'd love to go back. It's cool. It's very different from Southampton or Portsmouth, you know.
Next year, let's all go on a road trip. Let's book it in now. Next summer, let's do it.
Let's do it. We could put up a compilation, and like majority of the people on that
half
are from
people
Nashville.
could be from the same city. It's just mad. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. It's the place to be. That's for sure. Yeah. Great city.
So since then, when you went to the US the first time, it looks like you've travelled so much just based on Instagram, and you're always going to be somewhere else. It's like, where's Wally or where's Waldo for the Americans? It's where's he going to be next? We're going to find him. So we looked, and you most recently you've been to Italy, Sweden, and right now you're actually in Estonia for everyone listening. So what do you love about travelling so much? And last year, how did 2020 being locked down, maybe even a bit of this year, affect that for you?
Yeah, I think it comes from that trip to the US was the first one, because I didn't go there to travel. I had no interest in, the kind of traveling, backpacking, but it's kind of just the only way to get around at the time. And I think that's what started it. And then I've just tried to do it as much as I could since. But yeah, I mean, I just love, it's just so different, it just gets you out your comfort zone. And usually, when I come back home, feel so much more ideas for songs and things like that. It's definitely a huge part of that. But
I did wonder that.
Yeah,
if that inspired your songwriting.
Definitely, I think so. And I think that's, for me, the hardest thing is finding that initial kind of spark, and that's maybe the most reliable way of finding something. So I've always loved it. And the last 2 years obviously has been, is it 2 years? Yeah, it's 2 years, isn't it?
It's coming up on that,
something like that, yeah. So there was obviously a big gap where you couldn't go away. And it was, I mean, it's hard to feel bad about it. There's plenty of people in worse places, but yeah, it's nice to be away. And again, now I'm actually here. My friend from Portsmouth, when I first started, we used to write together, and he's a photographer, so he would take photos and stuff. He lives here. So we're out here just kind of getting photos and videos and all that stuff for the new song. And it's nice. I've been here a bunch. I recommend it. It's a little off the beaten track, but very nice. Yeah.
I want to come over for Christmas, because I've heard the Christmas markets are crazily good.
Because the Old Town here is the most picturesque Old Town I've seen, I think. So I can imagine the Christmas markets are very good. Yeah. Well worth it.
Bath and Christmas markets is a dangerous
hand.
combination.
I think. And Home Alone, that's right, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, Home Alone. Let's not get into that.
I actually met someone the other day here who said they went to Chicago to see the house. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
I would love to do that.
I know.
I would absolutely love to do that. But yeah, onto your music now, as we've gone, we've steered in a different direction.
That's right.
You've got a very distinctive laid-back folk pop style. Do you ever find it difficult to write music in this way, or does it just come naturally to you? And are you ever tempted to just write in a totally different genre?
I've tried, and it doesn't work. So
really,
I actually, because a lot of the music I listen to a lot of pop, pop and a lot of other things. I don't listen to a whole lot of the kind of music I make, really, other than maybe the slightly older ones, like Bob Dylan, Joni Mitchell, the classic ones. I don't listen to a whole lot of new. I do listen to some, but I listen to a lot more, pop music and stuff. But I can't do it. It always comes out the same way, and it's just the way that my gut goes. So I normally try and follow that. It always kind of has. There's plenty of songs that I think sound nothing like the other ones, and I'll send them to a friend and they'll say, "Oh, it just sounds like the other stuff." So I'm a terrible judge, but there's a few songs where I think they like a totally different style, but everyone's always like, "No, it sounds just the same." So I'm not sure.
I guess when you're used to that, it's quite difficult
Well,
to then.
and like you're so good at it, and everyone loves it. So like, why would you try and like make like an EDM record? Do you know what I mean?
I'd love to hear that though.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I think also because I record it all and I guess produce it all, but so that's a big part of it. I think when you work with other people, they obviously that if you go to a producer, then it can change, vastly. But where I do it all myself, it just always ends up, same kind of stuff. I think that's...
Well, we love it. Don't change.
Cool.
Yeah, so you just always self-produce. Did you like get into that at sort of same time as music, or did you like learn that because you wanted to record your own songs?
The latter for sure. Yeah,
the second.
When I first had songs, I didn't know anyone that would produce them, and I also kind of like I said, I'd be way too shy to show anyone my songs, so it's just kind of naturally I just started buying bits of gear and making horrendous sounding recordings. And you just start learning about what works for you, and now it's just so much easier to just keep it to myself. But there's a lot to be said for working with other people. Absolutely. I just never really found a great fit, and I'm also pretty stubborn. So the mix of the two means I'm still just doing it on myself. But yeah,
I love that.
Yeah.
Most of your songs are about love, but your new song, Nothing Personal, which releases on September the 10th.
That's a good first start, that one.
Your new song, which releases on September the 10th, and it will be out by the time this episode goes live, so everyone go and check it out, and you're performing it later for us too. It's kind of totally a different vibe. It sounds more like the end of a relationship, but at the same time it doesn't have that sad song vibe to it. Right. It's kind of a bit more upbeat. Do you want to speak a bit more about the origins of that song and how it like came to be and kind of what it means to you and all of that?
Yeah, a little bit. It's fairly self-explanatory, I guess. But I mean, I can tell you, I wrote it in Sweden. So end of last year, kind of September, I moved to Sweden a bit in that time when you could move with my friend. Shout out Jole Music. I think it's Alex Rainbird alumni. So we went out to Sweden together. Because we both had the same experience, shall we say, a breakup, and we thought that would be a good place to go. So I wrote it out there. But yeah, I mean, it's just about that strange. I guess it's strange. It's the first time for me. So period where people make it sound like you just stop talking and you move on and all this kind of stuff. But if it's someone you've spoken to for years, more than anyone else, it's quite hard to break that contact. And it's about that.
So would you say all your songs are like just about your experiences? Because I've had some people on here that sort of write like sort of stories of other people. So would you say yours are all sort of biographical?
Definitely, yeah. I'd love to be able to do that kind of not third person, but that thing where you're writing about other people and other people's experiences. But I've never had much luck with it. So it's all biographical, but maybe not. I wouldn't be able to put my finger on what it is or anything like that. It's very rare that it's, this specifically happened, and you can hear that in the song. A lot of it is kind of, it's not the right word, but ethereal it's not like a specific
general
background.
Feeling sort of thing.
I mean, this one there is, but most of them they're kind of just a feeling, I guess. With little realistic bits put in.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Okay, so we asked our community to send in questions for Ed, like we do on every episode, and there were so many that they actually took quite a few of the questions that we planned to ask you. So
thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. But yeah, the last
Thanks,
one
man.
before we get into those community questions, can you name a highlight or a favourite memory of your music career as Ed Patrick so far?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there's probably quite a big standout one was sometimes you get a message on Instagram or email, and a bit like you say about the first dance thing, and they'll say, would you do it? And a lot of the time it just doesn't, it's not a real email or something, I don't know. But there's one where reached out and I replied, I was like, yeah, that sounds good. Expected not to hear anything. And then he came back to me and was like, oh, here's the dates and everything. And I was like, oh, okay. So I went out to Seattle. It was like an island off Seattle. And did the first night. It was a surprise. So they did that thing where they played the song, Never Knew, and then they kind of cut it out as if it was a mistake, and then it came out and did it. And that was pretty, that was something. Yeah, That was great. That's probably the number one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That is amazing.
You can't really beat that.
Well, when we mentioned that, I'm not joking, when we mentioned that you were coming on to our Discord community, there was a lot of people freaking out. There's a lot of people that absolutely love you and love your music.
Cool.
So we had a lot of people just confessing their love. We had a few people saying like, will you marry me? And stuff like that, which is a new one. Studygram Alea on Instagram, who said, not a question, but your works are so fantastic.
Thank you.
So thanks for that, Alea.
Thank you.
And we had Silver Demanic on Instagram, who said, how can you make such great songs? Oh my God, I really love you. So that was
no questions there, just
two little confessions of love. So I just wanted to put them in there.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Silver Demanic also asked, what's your favourite movie?
I always like the before I get them muddled up, before sunset films. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're not massive, but they're about Ethan Hawke, who's now pretty famous. At the time wasn't. He meets Julie Delpy and they on a train to Vienna. Basically, they get off. They start talking on the train in Vienna, and he says, "Why don't you get off here, and then you can get on the train to Paris," I think, in the evening. And it's just them walking around Vienna. And it's fantastic. It's Richard Linklater, who ended up doing School of Rock and lots of big films, but it's like a real early indie film, but there's like a couple of those. I love those. Yeah.
We'll have to check it out. And I guess it kind of ties in with your traveling. If you're watching someone walk around Vienna.
I've been there, and I've been to all the spots like I do with a few places.
I love that.
I get myself quiet. And so I've done that there and other places. I love it. Yeah, I love films.
A really popular question we had, which I'm going to get a lot of names mixed up here, but we had Stag Tog 91, Jien Mikaso Akari, Chingiz _man1 and Kiro Saf all asked on Instagram, what inspires you in your music?
It's kind of a tricky one. Yeah, I mean, travel, just everything. It's a terrible answer, but I can't put my finger on one thing. But yeah, I mean, travel is a big part of it. But just people, meeting people and other music, and yeah, people, travel and other music is unfortunately the broad answer to that.
That makes sense, because your music is like just you, isn't it? And that's like a cliche thing to say, but like it's you and your experiences and everything that comes out in your songs. Yeah,
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. It's not conscious, but I guess trying to not get too much in the way between the two is good, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I guess like just life experiences, like because you are in different places all the time, that must really help you to like feel inspired.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does, but it definitely doesn't automatic. Like in the last year, I just tried to write loads and written so little that I actually like. And I thought, being away might help with it. But so it's not just that, but I guess it does definitely help to see new things and and new experiences and all that stuff.
Chingiz Man also had another question, actually quite a few, but we've already answered most of them already. He asked, who are your 3 favourite composers? I'm not quite sure if he means like classical composers or just like artists in general, but yeah.
I guess, I mean, I was always the biggest Tom Petty fan. I love Tom Petty.
Yes.
A big one for me, which is probably a big one for, I'm guessing a lot of people who do the same kind of music, is John Mayer. You know, he was that right age of when you'd listen to his songs and he would be singing in a different way to what come before, but about, you know, the younger people's experiences in their language. And that was the first time where I was like, oh, this is songs, like this is different. And that was huge for me. He was, and not so much the guitar and stuff, which obviously is one of the best, but it was never about that. It was always about the lyrics and the sound of those records. And then, God, there are a lot. I mean, Joni Mitchell is kind of an obvious one, but she's always been a big one for me. And then back from earlier days, I used to be a huge Steely Dan fan, which is much more musical. But that definitely helps a lot. Having that influence, but then still making maybe acoustic music is quite good, I think. To make it a bit more musical. Yeah. But yeah, if it's classical composers, I'm not very good. I could do maybe film composers, but not just be Thomas Newman, Randy Newman, I think. Yeah.
What about band? What's your go-to band? Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah. I mean, I know you're a fan. I guess they're not a favourite, but a band I love it. 1975. You know, I love it. There's a more modern one. You know, I'd love to see them. I really would. I love. I guess it's a band, but like Chic. I love.
Nice.
You know, that kind of stuff. But then the classics, the Stone. You know, I was always a big Stones fan. And yeah, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers is kind of a band. Bruce Hornsby and the Range. You know.
You got a big long list.
Yeah, I guess he's not really a band either, but I don't know. Lots of yeah.
Jumping ahead, we actually had a question from Stefano Vigano on Instagram, who said you posted a Love on the Weekend cover going back to John Mayer. What was your opinion on his music? But I guess you've kind of answered that basically. I guess
Mayer.
Yeah, big fan, especially of their first 2 albums. New Deep was my favorite. My Stupid Mouth, you know, those kind of heart on the sleeve, slightly different way of, you know, different lyrics to what I was used to, and I love them. I love the new stuff. You know, I love the new tunes as well, the more 80s ones. But I always go back to the older ones, which isn't it always the way? You know, the first ones you hear are always, you know, there's something in that, isn't there?
I find that as well.
There's no way of breaking out of that, I don't think. But yeah.
We had Flo Lopperly on Instagram ask, what's the longest time that it took you to finish a song from the initial idea to the end result?
I don't know what would be the longest. I mean, every new one takes longer and longer. Like where I'm recording myself, it takes me a long time to record the song. More the mix and that kind of stuff. I'm sending it to a couple of my friends all the time saying, which do you prefer? And they're like, they're the same. And that will take, you know, months. You know, I think like this one, it might not sound it, but it's hundreds of hours of just the you know, in the Pro Tools thing. Just so maybe this one was the longest. I think
it just seems so effortless and just like comes out just like
yeah. The thing is if I had 10 hours to do it, to record it, and 100 hours, it probably wouldn't sound any different to anyone else.
Yeah, it's awesome. Perfectionist.
Yeah. It's the best way to be, really, isn't it? You've got to get it perfect.
It's a funny one. Exactly. It's a funny one though, but it's dangerous as well. You know, I was terrible for this. They get so into that perfection thing that you never put anything out, and that's the best thing you can do is just put it out half cooked. Because I took years just not putting anything out because I was, you know, scared that it wasn't. So yeah, you don't want to be too precious or perfectionist, I guess, if you can help it. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm like.
Have you ever released a song where you weren't like 100% happy, or just like, oh, I'm just going to release this, and it's like done really well, or you've never even got to that stage? I've
never put anything out that I didn't like. There's definitely been ones where I hasn't been sure, as sure as maybe previous songs, but maybe I've sent it because I always send it. I have people that I send stuff to, and that helps massively. Getting there. It's not just, it's like the gut reaction. A lot of it also is sending music to friends is a dangerous game, friends and family, because they're probably going to tell you it's brilliant and they love it. A big tell is I always send a SoundCloud link and I can see how many times they played it. So if someone says it's the best song ever and they listen to it once, I'm like, thanks. But it's not the best thing ever. So you know what I mean? Whereas sometimes you'll say something there maybe 50 times and then you're like, that's got something.
Exactly, yeah. I guess when you've sat with a song for that long, the best thing really is another pair of ears, isn't it? To like look over it and just see how it is. And
it can be awful. Sometimes you think this is it. This is the best song ever. And you send it to someone and they don't reply, and then maybe they do and they're like, yeah, I like it. And you're like, oh. But it's something you have to go through. But that can be super painful. But it's always for the best, It's no one's, it's just something you go through. Everyone, I'm sure, goes through it with other things, But can be a bit of a pain.
I bet. I don't know how I don't know how you can do it, because like, I don't know. That's a scary thing, isn't it? Like if you've worked on something for so long and you love it, and then it's like down to actually sending it to people. Yeah. Like that's how we feel. Like if we like decline a song, it's the worst feeling ever.
That's hard,
isn't it?
That's really, really tricky. Yeah. But there's no easy answer, I guess.
No.
And you have to keep consistent with, because that's why people like you, because of your taste. And it's, another one of those things, sometimes what's not, everyone knows it, but what's not right for you, what's not right for me doesn't mean it's bad. It's just...
Exactly.
There's a lot of people, that's the thing, there's a lot of people out there with ears. And if you can just reach 0.1% of them, that's, I don't know, that's a lot of people. So you definitely have to, not be too discouraged, I guess.
We had a couple of people who were interested if you had any live shows planned. So we had Luke Glatton on Instagram who asked, when's your next concert in Europe? And M_ID_S asks, will there ever be a vinyl or CD for Ed's music? Also, will you ever come to the Netherlands? #1 fan right here. So I guess that there's 2 questions there for you.
Yeah, I mean, live shows, nothing booked. I don't do a lot, if any, but that's always been a funny one. A bit like when I said about putting out music, I can be very self-conscious in some ways, and playing live is one of them. Even though I used to do it a lot, playing for other people, to stand up and sing myself has always been maybe the biggest hurdle. So it's not to say I wouldn't do it, and I have done little bits, but I haven't got anything booked. That's the short answer. But there's a few things that I would be tempted to, like support things, and that might be a better way to get into. But it's also hearing people asking for it is a big thing. Because to me,
exactly.
Sometimes you really don't know what people are thinking, what's out there. It's sometimes you think no one would come. It's a strange.
It is so tough, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
I remember when we did our live show in London, that was like a one thing, and it sold out luckily. But the whole thing was just, we're not going to sell any tickets. It's just going to be our family there.
Yeah, I couldn't get my head around people like paying money to like come and physically be somewhere. It's just like, just seemed impossible. But
then we had like literally about a 10-second speech or 20 and the whole year, I'm not even joking, that's all I was thinking about.
You were dreading it, yeah.
I was absolutely dreading it. So I completely get like the feeling of getting up there on your own, having to play the songs, having to speak to a crowd. Like, I'd be the same. It's not for me.
Said, I've always in my head thought at some point I'll put a song out and it'll just be I have to, that it'll but maybe I think, I don't know. Yeah. I did have a show booked just in Corona with Stu, Stu Larson?
Yes.
Yeah, so I was going to support him in London, and that's one of those ones I knew I should say yes, so I said yes, and then I just panicked, and then Corona came in, and I was, is it going to happen? Is it? And it didn't. But so, I have had stuff booked, and I've done a couple of, I do a couple of tracks on maybe with a friend, that kind of thing. But I've never done my own show, as it were.
Yeah.
But the vinyl question, I nearly did that last year. But again, I wasn't sure anyone would want to buy it. So I thought, but I'm well into that, into doing a vinyl. So yeah, I think if I had an album or maybe a longer play EP, that would make a bit more sense, as opposed to remastering old stuff and all that.
Exactly.
Yeah. But it's definitely something I've thought about, and I'm sure will happen. Yeah.
And it's what the people want.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
exactly.
I'm hearing that now.
I think you've almost just got to just try it sometimes, because I feel like for this podcast, for example, we sort of had the idea of it for a year or two, but we were just kind of no one's going to care, no one's going to listen to it, but then just think, let's do it anyway. Do you know what I mean? And
You've got one life, haven't you?
Yeah.
You may as well try everything.
Just give it a go, just once,
absolutely.
even if you do it once.
Yeah, what's the worst that's going to happen? That's the thing.
Yeah.
So
really
we expect to see the Ed Patrick UK tour.
Yeah.
Soon.
Next week, announcement, please. Yeah.
That's it. Maybe.
For the Love of Knitting on Instagram asked, do you have any hobbies or talents outside of music?
I do. That's something that I've tried to do more of. I used to do too much music, I think, and not have enough hobbies. So in the last year, I'd actually stopped playing for a bit. Stopped trying to write at the beginning of this year for a good few months. And I just tried to, read more, try and become a bit more of an interesting person that can talk about things unrelated to music. Reading and travel, I guess, are the big two.
Yes.
There's some good TV shows and movies, but I don't watch as much as I used to, maybe. I like going out walking and that, that's always good. Listening to podcasts. I'm a big podcast listener.
Nice.
Good to know.
This being my first podcast is something.
This is kind of a cool, freaky moment, I guess, even though it's only ours.
No, it's I'm always going to do this when you ask. So.
I hope you get more people now. Heard you on Alex Rainbird's podcast. Will you come on ours? Get ready.
Oh,
I hope more people are interested.
Hope your email inbox is ready.
Yeah.
We had a Bugs Fiend from our Discord server who is a huge fan of yours. In fact, it took them a few days to get the questions over to us because they just had to control themselves and get their questions right. Yeah. So the first one they asked was, after spending time with so many legendary musicians growing up, what is a piece of advice that you have heard most often?
Oh, that's a good question. I guess what about music? It's hard to think because back then I was on a totally different path to now. But I would say, it's just that thing of really trying to know what it is you want, which is not easy, and just going with the way of what your gut instinct, and just following that, because that means everything really. Because for me, when I think about what I used to want, what I'm doing now is so different, and something never felt right about that before. When I think about it now, there were things about it didn't feel natural, whereas this feels natural. So I think whatever you can read in what I just said is probably a much more succinct and direct way of saying it. But just do what you want, which
do what you love.
Says, but which is music and everything. It's not just for music.
Yeah. I feel like you've kind of already answered this in this podcast, but the Bugs Fiend then asked, the Beatles or the Rolling Stones? Simply. My parents were into the Stones, so I think that influenced it. And so, I'm a Stones guy, although I love the Beatles. But it's strange, missing out on being a Beatles fan as a kid is different. Most people, I feel like it puts you in a different position. I don't know the songs like a lot of people do. But I do know, I know plenty of them, but not in the same way. Whereas the Stones, I know a lot more. And I always like the way they are, that kind of rock. They were always more of a slightly rock band, but yeah, I'd have to say the Stones, though it's very close.
They then asked, I think everyone wants to know this, and also I've got a bit of competition.
This is the main reason we did the podcast, basically.
Do you have any hair routine secrets?
You know what? I did think this always comes out if I write. Well, in the one time I did a question things, but 3 words: sea salt spray.
Sea salt spray.
Wow.
Yeah, that's it. Let it grow. That's another one. Just if you got short hair and you want long hair, just let it grow.
Don't ever cut it.
Sounds obvious, but
top quality advice.
It is, yeah.
It is like, to be fair, it's perfect though. You look at it and it's perfect, and it kind of gives me that like Cornwall surfer kind of vibe, doesn't it?
Surfing. I've never surfed in my whole life, but a lot of people. I've actually had people literally come up to me and say, in an Australian accent, which I'm not going to do, but like, how's it going? Yeah. They just think I'm Australian. I surf, So.
And then Bugs Fiend's final question was, why guitar, and what does the instrument represent to you?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Guitar. Why was it guitar? I mean, I think it's just the music. Hendrix and Clapton and all those albums that my dad had, and there was no other option. That's for sure. So it was just all those classic bluesy kind of guitar players, Led Zeppelin, and it was all kind of centered around the guitar. Though I'd love to learn piano more, or drums, because piano is you're just so wide open in what you can do with that, and drums is just fun, isn't it? But guitar. Sorry, what was the second part of the question?
What does it represent to you?
I don't know. Very different thing to what it represented then. That's for sure. Because I was solos and all that kind of stuff. Whereas now, it's funny. I was so obsessed with guitar for the longest time, like so obsessed with guitar and guitarists, to the point where I could say to my mum, "Who's this playing on this?" and she would have a pretty good guess, because I would constantly be talking about who played on this and who played on that. And I was, obsessed. I worked in a guitar shop for I don't know how long, a long time, 10 years maybe. I was guitar obsessed, and now it's more of I don't think about it as much now. It's more of a supportive thing, and I love guitar, but I try not to. Well, I try not to. It's just not as big a part of my life, which is cool. I think it was the biggest part of my life forever, and that comes. I guess it hopefully comes through in ways. It's still there. It's just not. I don't follow it as much, so it's more about the songs and the guitar being a supporting instrument, I guess.
Amazing. I don't know how you do it, because me and Alex have tried like guitars and stuff, and it took me like a year to learn one song.
We've got a guitar literally in the frame behind us.
Yeah, you can see it
but
that side.
We just don't have just the time, or just like the motivation, I guess, just to try.
I'd love to just sit down, and I just know it takes so long.
Yeah, that's the thing. I take it for granted now, but I started when I can't remember now. I think 8 or 9, but not playing properly, and I was just obsessed. I had all the time in the world, no real distractions, and I was just obsessed with guitar. I'd play it, 6, 7, 8 hours a day, learning stuff, and then getting. It's just a different time. To pick up something like that now, I don't know. There's so many other things. That's the thing. There's so many things to do now, and distractions and stuff. It's a different time. But I do take it for granted. But it was good to have those early. And also, my parents were supportive. They got me lessons, and they'd get me a guitar at Christmas and that kind of stuff, which, I'm very lucky, yeah.
How many guitars do you have now? Do you have like a collection, or just stick with your classic?
Yeah, quite a lot, but less than I used to. I have much more like other instruments. So guitars-wise, I've probably got 4 or 5, but I have, ukuleles and mandolins and nice. loads of that stuff, which kind of creep in a little bit. So and then piano. Well, it's a piano synth and stuff. So less guitars than I used to, because I used to work at a guitar shop, and I could basically just take things on long. And I used to have just like 15 of the things sitting around, and
whole room just for your guitars.
Just loads of them. Yeah, but less now. But I always go to the same ones. I guess for guitar players, like a Gibson acoustic, which I use a lot, and a nylon string, and a couple of electrics. Yeah.
Do you name the guitars, or do they just remain like?
I don't think I ever have. No, I've never named them. No. A lot of people do, but
maybe you should.
Maybe I should. Yeah.
Alex and Bev could be a name.
Yeah.
Alex a guitar. Oh dear. Shock from our Discord server is also a really, really big fan. He had two quite in-depth questions. The first one was, the song What You See is so special to me and probably many others due to the line, I won't show the best side of me in case you don't like what you see. This message of the whole song is so relatable to so many people who are perhaps quite socially anxious or just introverted. So his question was, do you intend for your songs to be relatable for your listeners, or is it mostly a way for you to express your own feelings?
Oh, definitely. I just kind of, it's what I think. And you know, you realise that actually most people have the same feelings and experiences in their own way as you know. So if you're honest about something, then there's, how many people are there on the planet? Is it 7 billion? You know, there's going to be plenty of people that have felt that as well. So it's definitely, I'm not thinking about other people, but if if it's kind of honest to me, then I guess it just turns out that it's honest to other people as well. That one, that one is quite an old one, and it's funny because, you know, I listen to it and I just hear the little bits about it. I'm like, oh, why didn't I change that bit? But the message of that one is very real to me, for sure. You know, that's for sure.
It must be so amazing, like putting out a song and people like Shock relating to it just as much as you, if you know what I mean. Yeah,
it's absolutely bonkers.
Yeah,
it is crazy. Yeah, and it never gets old. Yeah.
I actually shout out to Shock because he always talks about you.
He does.
So
Greg.
he really, really loves you. But he also had another question, and it was, I would also love to ask Ed if when writing the song Addicted to You, which has a very distinctive and unique sound when compared to his other work, was it always your intention to write the song with this outcome in mind, or did the song just come together that way? When writing any new music, does the song just come together in a certain way as you piece it, or do you plan to sound a specific way or vibe?
Yeah, see, that's one definitely where I thought, this is just nothing like any of the other music. I can't, and then, I mean, I think that's right, but other people are like, but no, it kind of fits, it's fine.
Yes.
But that one was actually more of I actually wrote that with my friend Piers, who lives in Estonia. And we were just kind of having fun, really. It was more of and I wish I could do it more of not so personal, but like classic, just song lyrics and lines, and you know, the message is a bit more universal. You know, I wish I could tap into that more, maybe that more universal theme. But the music was having fun. That's the kind of music I listen to a lot. You know, the kind of slightly 80s tinge, the guitars, the Mutt Lang backing vocals. You know, that's right on my street. I would love to do more of it, but it kind of ties into that second part of the question where I never plan like for this song's going to sound like this. Usually with most songs, like especially this last one, I probably did about 15 different versions of them. A lot of them are kind of similar, and a lot of the time it just doesn't feel right. You know, you might spend a whole day, 2 days, and then you're just like, it just doesn't feel right. And you're just waiting until you do the version that feels right. It's hard to explain, but I think that's a huge thing. If you can tap into that of not being scared to just do away with it. Again, this doesn't necessarily mean it has to do with music, but just being all right to just start over until it feels right is that's kind of my approach to it. Even though it can be a real pain to have to start from the ground and question yourself constantly, but normally, like, you just hit on a version where you're like, oh, this does feel right, and go with it, and it just kind of go where it goes. Really, very vague answer, but yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Just a couple more left. We've then got Conconderosas on Instagram, who said, what song is closest to your heart and why?
Good question. So for the longest time, Eyes on You is always my favourite. To me, it was very much just off the cuff, and it was always, to me, reminded me of like that film I talked to you about, that kind of just that, I don't know what the word is, but real, and just two people meeting, that kind of, that has always been the one that's been my favourite. And I'm not just saying this, but yeah, the new one is the second one that kind of fits that gap. And I've honestly never said, oh, my new song's my favourite song. I wouldn't say it's my favourite. It's a lot, but it's the most real. It's definitely has that kind of it's most real, maybe.
It's incredible.
Yeah, we love Eyes on You, and
I love Shoulder.
Yeah, that's a funny
I
one.
don't know, Shoulder's just always every time
Yeah.
I listen to that one, it's just like, oh, beautiful.
Yeah, that's actually one that I wasn't 100% on. I think another Alex Rainbird alumni, Nick Kingswell, who I used to live down the road from.
Wow.
I sent it to him, and he was like, "You got to put this, you got to put this one out." And that's when I started maybe working on it more. But I wasn't as sure on that. And that's the one that my mum will always say, "Why on earth did you call it that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I get what she means." But yeah. But yeah, it's a funny one. I wasn't 100% on that one, funnily enough.
Wow.
But I like it a lot now. Yeah, I like the message. It's the whole Pacific Northwest driving down the which is that's kind of what that comes. Yeah, that's what it's
so
kind of
good.
About.
Yeah, we actually had a few questions from other musicians, which is really cool.
We've actually already mentioned and shouted out.
Yeah,
on this podcast.
a lot of them we've mentioned before,
okay.
and quite a few of them are featured on alexrainbirdMusic
John
as well,
Mayer?
so that's really cool. Firstly, we had Stu
Petty.
Larson, who we mentioned,
Oh, cool.
Yes.
and he said, "I would like to know when Ed will come and hang out with me and play some songs together."
So I'm coming to him. I'm like, okay.
Yes.
I believe he's in Italy, right? I'm actually leaving here in a couple of days to Copenhagen, heading south. So maybe we will meet up.
You're on the way.
But yeah, if he's still in Italy, I'll definitely. Yeah, it's always great to see Stu.
Watch out, Stu. He's on his way.
Yeah, Stu is a great person.
Rod Coot Music on Instagram. He said, "I'd love to hear the inspiration behind the song "You in My Life," which I don't think we've actually spoken about yet." So
Yeah. That was actually meant to be on the Barcelona EP because I wrote that there, but I wasn't sure on it, and I put it on YouTube. Like I've started doing that more, putting songs on YouTube that I like but wouldn't want to put out, and that one got quite a good response, and and then I was like, I'll put it out. And there is some things about that I really like. There's the second verse is kind of Joni Mitchell songs in the lyrics and that kind of stuff. I always like doing that a little bit. So it's not a direct inspiration, but it's kind of like all the other ones, travel and yeah.
Okay. Well, the last question from the community, but I mean, this
go.
one's from a great friend of yours, Jolay Music.
Who?
We think this is going to be quite a tough one for you as well, since you love traveling so much.
Okay.
But he asked, if you could only travel to one country for the rest of your life, which one would it be?
Oh, that's good. Yeah. I'm not sure I know the answer to that. I don't know. Yeah, honestly, I really don't know.
What about a couple then? Like top two?
top three.
Honestly, I'm not sure. Yeah, top. I'll just reel a few off. So I love Scandinavia. Sweden. Love Sweden and Denmark. I love that whole thing. The way they are and the little differences of Scandinavian people. I like that. I love Spain.
Yeah.
And I love them. I love America. It's always been maybe just because from the music. That was always the place. That was the dream when I was younger was to live there. I don't feel like that now. Nothing against it. It's just different. You change, but that's probably got the softest spot is probably America, and that comes out of just all my favorite music and musicians come from there, and it's that's why really. Yeah, but I should say England.
I was just going to ask, if there's one place that you haven't been to and it's like on your list, where is that? Where are you going to go next?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, ever since I was a kid, I always thought South America looks like magic. It looks like it's not on this earth. And I've still never been to South America. And I've always put it off because, you need 6 months or a year. So it would have to be there. Yeah. It'd have to be, Colombia or Argentina and everything in between.
Amazing. Wow. I think that's the biggest, longest community question bit we've had. That's amazing. Nothing personal is out by the time everyone will be listening to this. But is there anything else you're currently working on or can announce today for all those people out there that love you and your music?
Not really, but I really hope there is soon because I am, writing every day, and I've got like one other song that I think I'll probably put out this side of the year, leading up to what I would like to have as a more, an EP or an album early next year or spring. So that's what I want. It's just whether I can find the songs, But yeah, I'm kind of hoping that there'll be a time where it just all falls out of you, because that can happen. So as long as you kind of show up and try, then it happened. But yeah, ideally, I'll have one more song out later on, and then hopefully an EP, or I'd love to have an album, but next early spring or something like that.
Just enjoy yourself, enjoy your writing time.
See what happens, I guess.
Yeah, that's it. There's not much you can do other than try. Try not to get too worked up about it's not coming. Yeah, there's not much more you can do than that.
Is there anything else we haven't already spoken about today that you just want to sort of end the podcast on?
Oh, not really. I feel like it's been great. I've covered a lot of ground. Yeah, I like talking, so
yeah.
So yeah. It's perfect.
So today Ed will be performing his new single, Nothing Personal, which we've spoken about today on the podcast. It's out now and is one of our favourites. Make sure you all go and check it out, and we hope you enjoy this live version.
A 1, a 2, a 3. You don't get to phone me to tell me that you're lonely, 'cause you don't get to choose the part you lose and the piece you keep of me. It's nothing personal, just never want to see you again. It's nothing personal. If it wasn't worth it all, you don't get to call me a friend. It's nothing personal. You could have given me a warning, or woke me up on any morning. You could have given me a sign before your mind gave up, gave in. If you're wondering, well, if you're wondering, it's nothing personal, just never want to see you again. It's nothing personal. And if it wasn't worth it all, then you don't get to call me a friend. It's nothing personal. You see, the problem is I love you. The problem is I care, yeah. The problem is I never had enough of you, even when you were there. It's nothing personal, just never want to see you again. If it wasn't worth it all, you don't get to call me a friend. You don't get to call me a friend.
Thank you everyone so much for tuning in to episode 10 of the Indie Music Podcast. Also, huge thank you to Ed Patrick for joining us today. It's been so fun. For everyone that's listening, where's the best place for them to connect with you? Because I know there's going to be a lot of people coming your way. So,
oh yeah, I mean, I guess Instagram, but just send me, honestly, just send me a message. That's anyone, everyone. Yeah, maybe Instagram, or, you can email me. What is my email? I guess info@edpatrickuk.com, or, wherever you want, you just reach out. It's fine. Please do.
And Instagram's just Ed Patrick Music.
Oh yeah. And no, it's not actually. It's Ed Patrick UK, just because that's all I could get. Not because I'm just that's what it is, and it's shorter than music, so I went with that.
True. It's less words to type in.
Yeah.
If you've been watching this episode on video via Patreon, we hope you've enjoyed it, and a huge thank you to everyone supporting us there. It honestly means the world to us. Make sure you're following the show on your favourite podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you're listening, so then you get notified as soon as new episodes release. And don't forget, you can submit questions for future guests on our Instagram and Discord servers. Make sure you're following us there as well.
Yeah. Also, a big announcement. Our next episode will release on Tuesday, the 26th of October. It'll be our Halloween special.
Oh, we're so excited for
which
this,
we're really excited for. Get ready to celebrate the spooky season with us. It's going to be, head to toe in decorations.
Yeah,
right?
it's going to be, yeah.
Stay tuned to our social media for more news on that. But all that's left to say now is thank you so much again, Ed, and have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, Ed.
Yeah, bye.
Bye, everyone.
Ladies.